Imagine swinging a piece of steel at like 120 miles per hour.
Right.
With millions of dollars and a literal piece of golf immortality on the line. But your brain is secretly forcing your body to flinch.
Just a tiny, microscopic hesitation.
Exactly. A hesitation in your downswing. All because of a blister the size of a dime on your big toe. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today is Thursday, May 14th, 2026, and we are unpacking a massive stack of sources for you today.
Oh, we've got everything. Course architectural blueprints, meteorological data,
Player biomechanical profiles, digital broadcast schematics, you name it. Our mission here is to understand the complete picture of the 108th PGA Championship kicking off today.
and it's going to be a wild one.
It really is. But before we step up to the first tee, I need to share something important with you. This is golf247.eu, and today we're diving deep into everything happening at the PGA Championship. The players, the strategy, the pressure, the technology, and the stories shaping one of the biggest weeks in professional golf.
Yeah, we're not just covering scores here.
We're analyzing the biomechanics, the course setup, the momentum shifts, the psychological battles, and the decisions that can change a major championship. If you enjoy the content we create here at golf247.eu and want to support the channel, please subscribe. Every subscription helps us grow the platform, reach more golfers around the world, and continue producing deeper, higher quality golf content over the next few years. Now let's get into today's PGA Championship analysis.
So to start off, the stakes this week are genuinely historic. I mean, we are looking at a massive homecoming for the Philadelphia region.
Heavily intertwined with the nation's 250th anniversary celebrations, too.
Exactly. And the tournament has officially returned to Aronimink Golf Club in Newtown Square. The last time the PGA Championship was held on this property was 1962.
Yeah, 1962.
Yeah, that was the year Gary Player took home the Wanamaker Trophy. So we have this amazing collision of deep American history and a modern field of 156 players, most of whom have never even encountered this course in a major championship context.
Well, let's unpack this. Let's look at the physical reality of Aronimink. We have the architectural blueprints right here. And on paper, the math just looks brutal.
Brutal is the right word.
It's a 7,394-yard layout, but it plays as a par 70. Now, for anyone looking at typical tournament setups, that par 70 designation is like a massive red flag for scoring, isn't it?
It completely alters the math of a player's round. You know, a standard championship layout is usually a par 72, which typically includes 4 par 5s.
Oh.
And those are basically a touring professional's primary birdie opportunities.
The scoring holes.
Exactly. But by playing as a par 70 at nearly 7,400 yards, the setup essentially converts 2 of those scoring holes into monstrous 480-plus yard par 4s.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you're stripping away those guaranteed birdie looks and replacing them with holes where just walking away with a par feels like an absolute victory.
And this is a Donald Ross design, right? Recently restored by Hanse and Jim Wagner.
Yeah, and their explicit goal was to return the property to Ross's original standards. He literally intended this place to be a supreme test.
And the defenses they've established to administer that test are just extensive. Looking at the agronomy and hazard reports, there are 180 bunkers scattered across the property.
That's just so much sand.
Right. And the greens are severely sloped bentgrass. Plus, you've got water directly threatening the approach shots on 10 and 17. Oh, and the fairways feature narrow 30-yard landing areas flanked by thick rough.
Yeah, it's intense.
But wait, okay, I have to stop you there.
Yeah.
Because modern golf has proven time and time again that distance is king. The whole bomb and gouge strategy, just hit it 330 yards into the rough and wedge it out. That wins majors.
It usually does, yeah.
So I don't really buy that a 30-yard fairway is suddenly a huge penalty for these guys just because there's some sand around it. Walk me through that logic. But why does precision suddenly outrank power this week?
It really comes down to the physics of the ground conditions interacting with the architecture. See, Aronimink is playing incredibly firm. Think of it like trying to land a marble. If you drop a marble onto a plush carpet, your margin for error is exactly where that marble hits. It stops dead. That's how most PGA Tour stops play soft and receptive.
Just throwing darts.
Exactly. But landing a golf ball on a firm Aronimink fairway is like dropping that marble onto a hardwood floor. It doesn't stop. It keeps rolling until it finds a depression, a crack, or a slope.
Oh, wow. So a 320-yard drive that lands just slightly off-center doesn't just stop in the first cut of rough.
Precisely. It keeps going. And Donald Ross loved incorporating blind tee shots and the subtle camber into his fairways. Former winner Keegan Bradley actually noted this exact phenomenon during his presser.
What did he say?
He explained that because the fairways are firm and slope toward the hazards, those 30-yard driving zones essentially shrink. They play more like 15 yards of actual playable landing space.
It's half the size.
Yeah. If that rolling ball trickles offline, you aren't just in standard rough. You are either gathering into one of those 180 bunkers, or you're completely blocked out by the topography. So power without precision on a firm Donald Ross course isn't an advantage. It's just a fast track to a double bogey.
Which means overpowering the course is totally off the table.
Completely.
And that requires us to look at the human element required to navigate this kind of geometry. If we're looking at the biomechanical data profiles of the field, what specific physical mechanics are actually required to beat Aronimink?
Well, the course geometry dictates a very specific biomechanical asset. You need the ability to generate a high angle of descent with long irons.
Okay, because of those firm greens.
Exactly. Because the players are hitting into severely sloped bentgrass greens, the agronomy really matters here. Bentgrass can be cut much lower than Bermuda grass.
Meaning it runs faster.
Faster and smoother, yeah. Which makes those slopes incredibly punitive. If a player comes into those greens with a flat, driving ball flight, the ball will hit the firm, bent grass and ricochet straight off the back of the green.
It has to drop out of the sky like a parachute.
You nailed it. The player needs to generate incredible club head speed, but deliver the club with a shallow attack angle. You have to launch a 4-iron high enough into the air that gravity does the stopping, rather than relying solely on backspin.
Right. And Cameron Young is basically the perfect prototype for this, isn't he?
Oh, absolutely. World number 3, coming in hot after winning the Players' Championship in Doral earlier this year. His natural swing mechanics produce one of the highest apexes on tour.
It's unbelievable to watch.
It really is. His swing is practically tailor-made to conquer firm, elevated green complexes like this.
But here's where it gets really interesting to me. Cameron Young's swing is his natural baseline. What happens to the players whose baseline mechanics just don't match that profile?
Yeah, that's the big question.
If you're a naturally low ball hitter, or you're struggling to find the center of the club face, you can't just rebuild your swing on Wednesday afternoon. Can you manipulate your gear to, fake it?
You can certainly try, and the panic of trying to do so is something we are actively seeing in the practice rounds. Let's look at Dustin Johnson, for example.
Okay, what's DJ doing?
During his Tuesday session, he was visibly struggling with his driver. He was consistently blocking his shots to the right, and on a course where the fairways actively repel balls into bunkers, a two-way miss is an absolute disaster.
Right, you can't be missing right when the course is proving you right.
Exactly. So instead of trying to overhaul his biomechanics on the eve of a major, he was out on the range frantically adjusting the titanium.
What exactly is he changing, though? I mean, we see guys twisting wrenches into their driver heads all the time, but what is the actual mechanical effect of that?
Well, he was cycling through different tailor-made driver head settings. Specifically, he was shifting the movable weights to alter the club head center of gravity. By moving mass toward the heel of the driver, you create a draw bias.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. When the center of gravity is closer to the shaft, the toe of the club naturally rotates faster through impact. So he is mathematically trying to force the club face to close faster.
Just to counteract his own body's tendency to leave the face open and block it.
Exactly. It's a desperate attempt to dial in a reliable flight path. It really shows that even the best in the world have to heavily manipulate their equipment just to survive this layout.
That mechanical manipulation is fascinating, but it's really only half the equation, right? You can perfectly calibrate the center of gravity on a driver, but a human being still has to swing it under the intense psychological pressure of a major championship.
And that pressure is immense.
It is, and the contrast at the top of the field right now regarding their mental and physical states is just staggering. Let's look at the defending PGA champion, Scottie Scheffler.
Scheffler is a fascinating case study right now. He's operating on a level of internal regulation that acts as a shield against this high-pressure environment. The psychological data we have on him points to a really unique anchor rooted in his upbringing.
Right, the story about his mom.
Yeah. His mother famously never asked him what he shot during junior tournaments. She only asked if he enjoyed himself.
Which, sounds like a really nice anecdote, but how does that actually translate to a competitive advantage on the tour?
It fundamentally alters his nervous system's response to stress. In high-stakes environments, players experience massive cortisol spikes. That stress hormone literally degrades fine motor skills, which are the exact skills required for putting in delicate wedge shots.
So he just doesn't get that spike.
Right. By completely removing the need for external validation, Scheffler regulates his heart rate. He isn't seeking motivation from rivalries, and he isn't expending mental energy analyzing the leaderboard. He is biologically insulated in his own process.
Keeping his fine motor skills intact when everyone else is tightening up.
Exactly.
Now, compare that insulated state to Rory McIlroy. The narrative around Rory this week is just chaotic.
Oh, it's a circus.
He just won the 2026 Masters, so he's hunting the third leg of the career Grand Slam here. But he intentionally skipped Scheffler's Champions Dinner,
Which ignited a huge media firestorm about his mental state, his hunger, potential rivalries.
Yeah, so much noise. And on top of that psychological noise, his physical machinery is breaking down. He had to cut his Wednesday practice round short due to a toe blister.
Which brings us right back to your opening thought. A blister seems trivial, but in the context of the modern golf swing, it is a critical structural failure.
I really need you to break that down, because we all get blisters, you put a bandage on it and walk it off. How does a blister on a toe genuinely disrupt a professional who is swinging a club 120 miles per hour?
It's all because of ground reaction forces. The golf swing doesn't generate power from the arms, it generates power from the ground up. Players like Rory create massive torque by violently pushing their feet into the turf.
Like pushing off the ground.
Right. The turf pushes back, and that resistance allows them to rapidly rotate their hips and torso. The primary pivot point for all of that kinetic energy transfer is the ball of the foot and the toes.
So the foot is literally the anchor point for the entire kinetic chain.
Yes. And the human brain is hardwired for pain avoidance. If you have a severe open blister on your pivot point, your brain will subconsciously try to protect it.
Without you even knowing it.
Exactly. Without even realizing it, Rory might shift his weight a fraction of an inch toward his heel, or his neuromuscular system might hesitate for a millisecond to lessen the pressure on that toe during the downswing.
A microscopic flinch.
A microscopic flinch that alters the club's path by a single degree. And at 120 miles per hour, an impact that is off by 1 degree means the ball misses the fairway by 15 yards.
And at Aronimink, 15 yards offline means you are buried in thick rough or wedged against the lip of a bunker.
Exactly. It's catastrophic.
And Rory isn't the only casualty of biomechanical breakdowns this week. We had some late-breaking field adjustments based on injury. Jake Knapp, who has 5 top 10 finishes this season, officially withdrew due to a persistent left thumb sprain.
And again, anatomy is destiny here. For a right-handed golfer, the left hand is the lead hand. The left thumb rests directly down the shaft and is the primary anatomical structure responsible for controlling the closure rate of the club face through impact.
You just can't play through that.
You simply cannot stabilize a golf club against the violent forces of impact with a compromised lead thumb. Knapp has been replaced by Tom Hoge, who tied for 9th at the 2022 PGA Championship, so that introduces a very capable player into an already deep field.
Right. So they're battling the architecture, the agronomy, their own biomechanics, their nervous systems. But they are also outside. They are completely exposed to the elements. Let's look at the meteorological data for today's opening round.
The weather is a huge factor today.
We have a high of 65 degrees Fahrenheit, a low of 50. But there are 2 really compounding variables, precipitation and wind. We're expecting 0.13 inches of rain and wind out of the west at 7 miles per hour, but it's gusting up to 27 miles per hour.
That specific combination of rain and wind completely rewrites the course strategy hour by hour.
How does that, tenth of an inch of rain actually change things out there?
It temporarily changes the agronomy. That light rain will soften those incredibly firm bent grass fairways and greens. Remember the marble on the hardwood floor analogy?
Yeah.
Well, for the early tee times, that hardwood gets a little softer. Approach shots will suddenly hold the greens, opening up a brief, critical scoring window.
Oh, so the early guys have an advantage.
Probably. Furthermore, water on the club face reduces friction between the grooves and the golf ball. If players are hitting out of the wet rough, they are going to get flyer lies.
What's a flyer lie?
It's where the ball launches with almost no backspin, which makes distance control an absolute mathematical nightmare. It just shoots off the club.
Wow, but then you add the 27-mile-per-hour gusts on top of that.
And the wind is the great equalizer. You might have softer greens, but golf is a game of aerodynamics. A 27-mile-per-hour gust, catching a high-launch 4-iron at the very apex of its flight, it will physically displace the golf ball mid-air.
Just push it completely off course.
This turns a perfectly struck shot into a bunker liability, and the players really have to capitalize on this softer morning window because the weekend forecast shows temperatures soaring into the 80s and 90s.
Which will just bake it out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It'll bake the moisture right out of the soil and turn Aronimink back into concrete by Sunday.
It's an incredibly dynamic puzzle, and while the players are trying to solve the physics of the course, the sheer scale of the event happening around them is just massive. I mean, there are 200,000 fans expected on site this week. It's essentially creating a small pop-up city.
It really is.
In the past, navigating a major championship as a fan meant holding a giant paper map and just trying to guess where the roars were coming from. But the digital broadcast schematics we reviewed show this unprecedented deployment of technology for the fan experience.
The technological infrastructure built for this week is absolutely staggering. The PGA has deployed a dedicated, localized 5G wireless mesh network across the entire property.
Which is completely necessary because when you put 200,000 cell phones in a rural golf club, the local cell towers instantly crash.
Exactly. They had to build their own high-bandwidth infrastructure. And this network powers a live range show broadcasting directly to YouTube and the PGA app.
That's super cool.
It allows fans to watch players like Dustin Johnson tweaking their driver weights in real time. And the data is wirelessly transmitted from the practice area back to the production studio in Frisco, Texas, with zero latency.
But the capabilities of the PGA app for the fans who are actually walking the grounds, that's what really catches my eye. They are offering 3D shot trails, an interactive plan your day itinerary powered by CapTech, and a seat finder powered by T-Mobile.
The seat finder and the 3D trails, I mean, they completely change how you consume the sport live. To generate those 3D shot trails, the PGA has positioned radar arrays, kind of similar to TrackMan units, on every single tee box and green.
Every single one.
Every single one. Those arrays instantly capture the ball's launch angle, the spin rate, the apex. That data is fed into on-site edge computing servers, rendered into a 3D graphic, and then pushed to 200,000 phones simultaneously over that 5G mesh network.
It's just wild. It bridges the gap between the granular data that analysts like us love and the visceral boots-on-the-ground experience.
It really does.
You know, it's like having a high-tech golf concierge right in your pocket. You're watching history, but you are armed with real-time telemetry. You don't have to wander aimlessly anymore. The Seat Finder tracks crowd density algorithms to tell you precisely which grandstand on the 18th hole has like 3 empty seats left.
It is genuinely the pinnacle of the modern spectator experience.
Which perfectly frames what we are watching unfold today. We have the historic, punitive geometry of Donald Ross's Aronimink colliding with these gusty, rain-slick elements. It is setting the stage for a brutal test of biomechanics and psychological endurance between players like the insulated Scottie Scheffler, the physically battling Rory McIlroy, and the high-launching Cameron Young.
It is the ultimate test of every single facet of a player's capability. And, you know, looking at the technology we just discussed, it leaves me with one final thread to pull as you watch the opening round today.
Okay.
Well, the PGA has proven they have the infrastructure to capture radar data, render 3D shot trails, and calculate wind vectors in milliseconds, delivering it straight to a fan's smartphone. How long will it be before the governing bodies allow players and their caddies to legally access that exact same real-time telemetry mid-round?
Oh, wow. That is a wild thought. Just imagine a caddy standing on the 18th fairway, pulling out a tablet to check the live aerodynamic data of the group ahead of them, just to see exactly how the wind is affecting the spin rate over the green.
Right. It would fundamentally change the DNA of golf strategy. It would go from an art form based on feel to an exercise in pure data science.
The living blueprint of the course wouldn't just be alive. It would be completely digitized and solvable.
Exactly. It's coming.
Well, the analog living blueprint of Aronimink is officially off the drawing board and out in the elements today. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. If you enjoy the content we're bringing you, please remember to subscribe to golf247.eu, as we mentioned at the top, to support the channel and help us continue producing this level of in-depth analysis. Enjoy the opening round of the 108th PGA Championship. Watch out for those 27-mile-per-hour gusts, and we will catch you next time.